Hello and welcome back to Sean in the Shed. On the show today, we've got Dr. Richard Kaye joining us from New Mexico in the USA. Welcome to the show, Dr. Richard.
Thanks for the invitation to play at your playground, Sean.
So we always start out by describing where you were born, educated, and how you started out in your career. So if you could describe that to the audience, that would be much appreciated.
Yeah, I was born in New York, grew up, graduated school, went to school to be an electronics engineer, ultimately shifted, got a degree, a BS degree in business management, wound up going to chiropractic school to serve people to help them improve the quality of their lives. Drove from New York to San Diego, spent a 30-year layover working with patients, having amazing practice, amazing results. And then retired, became an entrepreneur and moved to Taos, New Mexico. I already owned 80 acres, shut my practice, came out here, been working with entrepreneurs, Sean, helping them improve their quality of lives, creating more wealth, more abundance, more finances, so that they can take better financial care of themselves and their family. That's the Reader's Digest version.
So talk about your entrepreneurial journey. Where did that start, and why did you change from being a medical doctor in effect over to the world of business?
Well, I was fairly famous, and as Tony Robbins says, this is not to impress you. This is to impress upon you where I was and what I was doing. I mean, 6:30 News, a morning television talk show for about a year, multiple stories with color pictures in the newspapers. I heard about an organization and I said, I don't need this. It was a business growth conference. I was a legend in my own mind, so I didn't need anything. I got out of my own way, Sean, and over the next 9 months, my practice doubled. I said, whoa, there is something here. And I ultimately started working with them, developing young entrepreneurs. A couple of years later, I shut the practice. I moved out here to Taos, retired, said, I can't retire, and too many things to do in life. So for 22 years, I've been working with entrepreneurs, anywhere from solopreneurs up to fortune companies, helping them grow their businesses. And it's a fun journey, helping people come into their power and grow and serving others.
So perhaps you can tell us about CEO Space and the sort of projects you get involved with in terms of the network, the mentoring, and what goes on.
Well, great question. CEO Space has been around for 32 years. The fellow who founded it, a guy named Bernie Dorman, 5 months ago today, July 9th, graduated. He left this planet. He had been an investment banker. He had a firm the size of Smith Barney. He had 7,000 brokers working for him. His father was diagnosed and ultimately died of cancer. He sold that and created this business to help entrepreneurs grow. We are a global company. We have people in 150 countries. We work anywhere from solopreneurs, some people with early stage, even napkin ideas. I've got this idea, what do I do with it? A Shark Tank is not the answer. They call us the Dolphin Tank, because we're immersed with love and support instead of making people feel foolish. Sometimes they do. Excuse me. So from solopreneurs, small companies, all the way up to fortune companies. And we don't always get the CEOs of the large companies. We get their coaches and their mentors who whisper in the ears of the leaders in culture. So it's fun to watch people blossom. Some of your viewers may know a fellow named Bob Proctor. Bob actually taught at our program. He's for 40 years the top entrepreneur, coach, mentor on the planet. And he taught with us last month. And Bob said, CEO Space is not so much a business conference. And we're all, huh? He says, it's a personal growth conference. It's who you have to be to show up and sit with these kinds of people. Everybody is equal. A single divorced mom has the same access to a billionaire as another billionaire. And that's part of the joy of CEO Space. We only do one thing, and that's grow business.
And if you look at your alumni and your wider network, perhaps there's companies, brands, people that many of the audience will have heard of. You mentioned earlier Constant Contact, which is, of course, prolific email software. I think the founder of that's been involved with CEO Space. Who else has been involved with CEO Space over the years?
Wow. Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield are two wonderful examples. People may not know their names. They know their company, Chicken Soup for the Soul. That got started at CEO Space. They knew each other, but they got together and collaborated and created the Chicken Soup for the Soul empire. And just as an aside, when in their prime, they were making about $5 million a month each. When they sold it for $68 million, Jack Canfield called Bernie, the fellow I just mentioned, who was the founder. Bernie, I got a $68 million check in my hand. Some of you may know Lisa Nichols. She's one of the most highly requested motivational speakers. She came to CEO Space, developed into who she is today. She had to raise money to come, was my understanding. She didn't have the money. Today, she's worth $5 million. She got on the Oprah Winfrey Show through connections through CEO Space. She got in the video 20 years ago that was the rage called The Secret. And she got a $1 million advance on her book called No Matter What. Airborne, that stuff that you see at every checkout stand. It's an antibacterial thing that helps you stay healthy, little packets of stuff. And short story, young lady was mixing up some elixir in her bathtub, and her friend said, "You have to make a business out of this." It's my understanding, Sean, she sold out for $5 million. Now, all our stories are not that great. They're pretty good. They're amazing because people got my story. I was able to just shut my practice and walk away from it, and now work at a more leisurely pace. You don't have to show up in an office. You know, you're a solopreneur. You understand that. So, it's fun. We are part of the reasons that Forbes and Inc. For 10 years have said CEO Space is the #1 place, the one you can't afford to miss, is the culture of collaboration and cooperation.
Now, ordinarily, you'd hold and host maybe 4-5 events a year. Since the pandemic, you've had to go online. Talk us through that journey, because since March, I think you've been using things such as Zoom.
Right. I love your questions. Yeah, in March, we were getting phone calls from people in Italy and France and saying, "Hey, we cannot fly. We cannot come to your conference." We're a lady-run organization, by the way, and about 50% of our members are lady leaders. And September is the CEO and president. Ellen is the COO, vice president. Within 72 hours, they created our first Zoom conference. Now we do one a month, no travel. And when you used to come, we used to provide meals. Well, we don't FedEx meals to people. We accommodate that in breakout rooms. So now it's basically 2 events a month and 1 free event for everybody. And what we do, Sean, I don't know if you or your listeners have ever been to an event, which is very typical. They even do it today, but now on Zoom. We've got some person in front of the room teaching, and then they sell you, and they sell you, and they sell you. You go back of the room, you sign up, and that trainer is gone, off to the next stage to sell. We fire faculty for selling. We fire faculty for selling. And at those conferences, you can't sit down with a faculty member. At our place, well, we used to have meals with them. Now you go into a breakout room. And let's use Bob Proctor as an example. Many people know Bob or Lisa. She doesn't come back. She's too busy now. You go into their breakout room, and you and 2 or 3 people have got that hour with that individual. And then when you want more time, they all have their appointment book online. You book a private appointment with them. We're about having people really grow. None of you watching this learn to drive a car by watching someone draw pictures or watching videos. You actually did it. That's what we do. So when I say we build business, okay.
No, that's interesting. You need to be an active participant. So if you've just joined us, you're watching Sean in the Shed. And on the show today, we've got Dr. Richard Kaye joining us from New Mexico. So if you've got friends, family, contacts, and others that might be interested in this video, do tag them in the comment stream, and you can hashtag share Sean in the Shed on LinkedIn. We are looking for future guests, so if you're interested, do direct message me here on LinkedIn. But the question that myself and Dr. Richard would like to ask you, the audience today, is what keeps you up at night in terms of your business? If you've got questions, answers, or opinion on that, do fill in the comment stream. But let's fire that question back to Dr. Richard. What keeps you up at night in terms of your business? You seem to be pretty relaxed. You could have retired, but you're still going at it. Do you sleep well, Dr. Richard? And what sort of things keeps people up at night? Obviously, there is the recession on the serious side. There is the health pandemic. There's, it's been pretty tough over the last few months, hasn't it?
Yeah, it is tough. And ladies and gentlemen, what I invite you to do is get a piece of paper and write down what keeps you up at night. What business, personal, that's a different guess, but what business stuff keeps you up at night? What, when you go to sleep, it's, I can't make paper, whatever it is. And please do this. We would like for you to participate instead of just listening. Again, you didn't learn to drive a car by just observing. So as you write that down, you go real deeply and find out what bugs the heck out of you. And then what I invite you to do is on the bottom half of the paper, draw two circles, two concentric circles. And in the inner circle, write the things that you have zero control over. You can't control the weather. Sean and I were talking before the show about my closest friend, actually, whose home was destroyed by fire. That's out of their control. And then on the outer circle, in the outer circle, write things that you can control. Ladies and gentlemen, here's reality. We can control nothing. It's all an illusion. And the story I shared with Sean is that, yes, their home was destroyed. A place called Boulder, Colorado, beautiful home. And the next morning, Donnie's wife said to him, honey, yeah, we lost the home. We're alive. We have one another. How do you deal with your chaos? Do you wallow in it or do you move forward? Now, how does CEO Space fit into that equation? For 32 years, we've been providing answers to questions that people didn't even know they've had. US dollars, people have raised over $3 billion growing businesses. Almost any business. There's very little that we haven't covered because you get to think. There is no box to think out of, by the way. Sean, we didn't have that conversation. The box has been surrounded us by people who want to keep you contained. I don't know about you, but I was one of those kids that draw outside the circles, in kindergarten. There is no circle. There is no box. You're so much bigger than that.
So if members of the audience have drawn these concentric circles of what they can control and what they can't control, are we going to leave the answer to the end of the show, or what should they do next? They've got these perfectly formed circles. Should they be moving things around? What's the next step?
That's a great question. No one's ever asked that. It's the first time. Yes, move things around. Play in reality, not fantasy. And here's an invitation as you go through this exercise and as you go through life. We all have roles to play in life. In this moment, Sean is the host. He's the interviewer. I'm the guest. That's a clearly defined role. You have roles, ladies and gentlemen, as a spouse, as a parent, as a child, as an employee, as a boss, whatever it is. How's that working for you? What if you were to step out of the role and be a soul and show up person to person? Be the person who meets someone on a soulful level. We're all souls on this planet. And there are times to play the role in business and in your personal lives, which covers everything. Try showing up as a soul. Watch how your relationships change. I'll give you an example. We talked about, you hear people talk about, I want to sell a product to this company. No, you don't. You want to sell to an individual or a team within that company. Selling to a company puts you in a role. I'm just going to globalize it as a salesperson. And the company no company buys anything. Somebody makes a decision, an individual. And however you choose to play in the individual, connect with that person, forget about the end game. That'll show up. Whether it's, judgment, good or bad, doesn't make it, it's going to show up. Connect with the person and watch what happens. I assert that you change the view that you have of your role and turn it into a soul. Your life will play out differently.
And it's about servant leadership, isn't it? It's not about selling to people. It's about helping people. So if you're trying to foster partnerships, because you've got win-win partnerships, you've got win-lose partnerships, you sometimes have lose-lose partnerships. How do you ensure that you find the right people and you form the right types of partnerships and alliances?
Wonderful. My hallucination is, you all know the expression that you are the reflection of the 5 people that you hang around with. If the people with whom you're playing, and Sean, this is you and everybody involved, everybody, if they're complaining, oh, I don't have money, I may get fired, there's a fire, there's, the COVID, there's snow, there's rain. Do you want to play in that vibration? Change the people with whom you play. At least in this country, there's a saying in real estate, you never want to own the most expensive home on the block. You want to own the least expensive. The hallucination is it raises your value, yes? Who do you play with? Who do you hang out with? Are there people who are going to drag you down or people who are going to elevate you? That you say, wow, I like your thinking, instead of saying, man, your thinking sucks. Be with the people who enliven and enlighten you, and form alliances and joint ventures. And what if, Sean, I love the question, there's win-win, win-lose, and lose-lose. What if everything you do is designed to win? Not for personal, but for the other person. How do you do that? You show up in contribution, and how can I serve you? And I believe, Sean, perhaps one of our first conversations when we initially connected, I said, how can I serve you? That's a servant leader to show up. Don't wait for the payback. That's what's in it for me. When you show up in service, and I use the expression again, a servant leader, your payback will show up. It may be with someone else later on. It may be someone who shows up in your life and serves you and says, wow, where'd that come from? Because of the way you show up in life. Don't hold on to an outcome. I teach a program internationally on negotiation, and the whole essence of it is win-win. And it does, too many people think negotiation is about a solitary thing, and that's price. Get off the price. There's so many other variables. And, if you're in business, and I assume you all are, you're entrepreneurs, that's why you're watching Sean, does an amazing show here. If you burn somebody in a negotiation, you walk away and say, wow, that was great. Yeah, you may never do business with that person again. And guess what? Especially in today's culture of media, everyone's going to know that you're a really harsh negotiator without caring about the other person. What does that do to your reputation? Today, reputation is easily built or destroyed on the media. So play to win, and it'll come back many ways, and you may even know it, not even know it.
I guess it's a little bit like a football pitch or soccer, where if you play with better players, you become better yourself. So
Yes. Yes, a great metaphor. Absolutely. Yeah. If you play soccer, or I used to play tennis, and you don't want to play with people that you beat, or your ego, I won that game too. So what?
So how do you approach it? Because there was the classic two sisters arguing over an orange, and the initial thought was, okay, let's cut the orange in half, give half to one sister, half to the other. But actually, it came about that the sister, one sister wanted the orange peel, the other wanted the orange juice. How do you approach negotiation, partnerships, alliances, joint ventures to play to your strength and to their weakness? How do you match companies and people up for success?
Great. Find out where their strengths are. Play to their strength instead of to their weakness. Help them, acknowledge them, find out what they need. At CEO space, back up a little bit. People go to networking meetings, and why do they go? They go to get something, even whether it's online or when we used to have meetings. What if you didn't go to get something? You went to serve people, and you made contacts, leads, resources, just as you and I connected, Sean, with serving one another here. And I'll give you an example. We do a networking exercise at CEO Space. It's called SNAP, Super Networking Accelerates Potential. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before I learned how to live in contribution, I went to a networking meeting. How many patients are coming in? Well, that's the person next to them is who's going to buy my insurance, who's going to buy my cars. Our exercise is we ask the questions, what is it that you do? And what solution may I potentially offer? And we can go through this, and I'll give you a real concrete example. And then the question is, if you or someone you know has a lead, contact, or resource, and why is that? Because if the person with whom you're speaking doesn't have a need for your services, they're thinking about dinner. But as soon as you say, or someone you know, now the thoughts go splinting. They go out there, and now they're thinking of, well, who can I connect this person with? Well, when we do that at CEO Space, you got everyone asking you the same question. So it's not about me. It's about how can I serve you? And the biggest challenge that people have is too many people, Sean, don't know how to receive. I don't know about you, but in this culture and in this country, it's better to give than receive. Yeah, but nobody knows how to receive that. So you have to have the balance. And when you're giving, you will receive more than you can ever imagine.
It's really interesting, isn't it? It's flipping it on its head. It's about how many people I can help and serve, rather than how many bucks or dollars or pounds you can make out of the person. So let's move our attention now to the crisis. Clearly, there's a recession on. There have been job losses. In these circumstances, how can we better help each other to grow companies? How can we form these partnerships to preserve jobs or to create jobs, Richard?
Find out how you can serve. Find out, and it is a crisis. Some people say this COVID is nonsense. No, I personally know people who have died from it. It is not nonsense. It is real. It's how do you respond to it? Do you buy into the collective consciousness of the world's going to be wiped out? I mean, you guys there know this country, we just went through chaos in an election. It was inside out, upside down. I don't care if you're right, left, it doesn't make a difference. What if you find again that medium place, the median where you can work together? There's more growth, personal and business, in that. Find out who you can connect with. A young lady that I know is amazing. She told me the other day that she was driving up the street and there was a homeless guy, and he's the same as we. He's just got some different stuff going on in his life and chaos. And she went into the grocery store because she was shopping for groceries and came out and bought a sandwich for him. What if we did that? What if we did that for more people? And we did it again. It's a person. He's not a homeless guy. He's a human being. And we support them in the ways that we can. If you can give, if you can support, if you can help people get metaphorically as well as literally, out of the gutter. Do it. If you've got the resources, if you've got the wherewithal, make a connection. I mean, that's literally a gutter representation of the bigger picture of supporting and endorsing people.
And there's a lot of joy in giving, and you must give without expectation of return. You might not get that return, but you've got to do it charitably. Let's just round up and end the show now with your top 3 tips for getting through this recession. It's both a health and economic crisis. For members of the audience listening to you, Dr. Richard, what would your top 3 tips be for the next 3 to 6 months? Because we're not out of the woods yet.
No, we may have a while to go to this yet. We are still in absolute chaos. And I use the metaphor of Donnie and his wife, Jackie. We're still alive. And you may say, well, yeah, but I got people who died. You're still alive. I know people who died. Change the way you view the way you live in the world. Show up as a soul, instead of being a role. Take a look at those around you. Do they love, support, and endorse you? Or, oh, that's a stupid idea, you'll never do it. Why would you want to have? We all have had those people in our lives. I think it was Steve Jobs who said, and it's a poor paraphrase, that the crazy ones are the ones who are doing the things that everyone said you can't do. You have to be crazy. Crazy enough to step out from the norm and know what serves a higher level. So change your cohort, change your perspective, and show up as a soul, as distinct from the role. And again, there are times, again, you and I, we connected, I assert on a soul level. That's why we're having this. And again, the metaphor is, I'm the guest, you're the host, that's the role. But we're connecting on a deeper level or a higher level, or however you want to view that. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's your life. You determine the direction you're going. The only thing you can really control are your emotions. No, she beat me up, she hurt me, she left me. No, yeah. How do you respond to it? Sean, biochemically, an emotion lasts anywhere from 30 seconds to maybe 90 seconds, maybe 2 minutes. That's the emotion. That's the chemistry of it. Beyond that, anything is a story. It's a concept. He hurt me 20 years ago. Well, okay. Do you want to live in the story? Or do you want to use that as fuel? Well, here's a good point. People use their drama and their hurt in one of 2 ways. One is an anchor to hold you back. And you live, and we all know that, that's the victim. I was divorced, I was fired, my house burned down 20 years, 30 years ago, and you're still talking about it. Or you can use that as fuel to drive you forward. And as you move forward, it's just a story. We've all got drama, we've all got trauma. Do you want to live in it or move on? Okay?
So I think some really wise words there, Dr. Richard. And I guess in summary, it's all about flipping your thinking, isn't it? That when you're thinking negative, think positive, because we could all get down. We all have bad days. There's high emotional situations you get involved with. And, some people might not want to get out of bed in the morning, but you've got to break beyond, you've got to stretch beyond that, haven't you? And you've got to change your approach. But some really wise words there, Dr. Richard. It's very much appreciated. If people want to connect with you, you're clearly on LinkedIn. What's the best website address or URL to go to?
And Sean, I'd like to give your viewers some gifts also. Our faculty at CEO Space, they are amazing people. Some of them you've heard of. We mentioned Lisa Nichols, mentioned Bob Proctor, mentioned Mark Victor Hansen. I would enjoy, and I've got to read the URL to make sure I get it right, so let me pull that over here, where you can get their keynote talks from CEO Space. When we sell these, people pay $500 US for them. I'm going to give them to you for free. The address is Dr. Richard Kaye, Dr. RICHARD KAYE.com. drrichardkaye.com/Sean, SEANG. So drrichardkaye.com/Sean G. It's a $500 value, and that's for free. And if you would, the URL for the business is Dr. Richard Kaye, again, drrichardkaye.com. And if you would like to have a discovery call where we can begin to explore what has to happen to help you bridge the gap from where you are in business to where you would want to be, I invite you to go to richardkaye.com/talk, richardkaye.com/talk. We'll set up a call. That's billable usually at $275 US. It's a gift to you and your viewers, Sean. And let me put that into reality. We talked about giving. These are not sales calls. You will find out what has to happen and how you can implement things in your lives. And thanks for the opportunity to serve you and your viewers, Sean.
It's very kind of you to give that gift, and very much appreciated. So I do encourage people listening to the show to go to that URL that Richard has just mentioned. And if you didn't quite catch it, we can add it on the comments, or you can play back the video. So I just want to say thank you so much to Dr. Richard. Just an extraordinary story, really, of being a medical professional, then moving into the world of business, living in New York, San Diego, but moving into New Mexico on those 90 acres there. You're doing wonderful work with CO Space. You've got a fantastic story, and it's definitely something that I'm going to delve deeper into. So thank you to Dr. Richard. Thank you to you, the audience, for watching Sean in the Shed, and have a great rest of your day.
And stay safe. Stay safe. Sean, thank you so much.
Thanks.